Peace and blessings. Rob YB Youngblood coming at you with the Confidence Builder series, which is affiliated with the Collaboration Creates Currency movement. The movement will impact 100,000 lives in 2024, and our overall vision is to break the cycle of poverty and build wealth in individuals one connection at a time. I'm excited that this is session number 4. You may have caught or missed session number 3, which was yesterday. So feel free to climb up to or climb down, up, down, my timeline. You'll be able to see session number 3. You can catch session number 2 on YB Connect's Facebook page. You can catch session number 1 on YouTube, the Collaboration Creates Currency channel. So I've been over the last few days reading from The Magic of Thinking Big. This is a part of the Confidence Builder series. One of the most important things that you can do to enhance your credibility and your profitability is to gain clarity. And once you gain clarity, then you put yourself in a position to increase your confidence. So yesterday we talked about a mind disease, a mind deadening disease. It's called excusitis, and I won't go over it too much more because I want you to go ahead and read the last session, but I will touch on a few key points in the book that I believe will add value to you. Feel free to like and share, comment when something that you hear hits you. So the four most common forms of excusitis are wide varieties. There's different forms of excusitis, but the worst types of this disease are health excusitis, intelligence excusitis, age excusitis, and luck excusitis. Now let's see just how we can protect ourselves from these four common ailments. But my health isn't good. Health excusitis ranges all the way from the chronic I don't feel good to the more specific I've got just and such work to do, and it's all worse with me. Bad health in 1,000 different forms is used as an excuse for failing to do what a person wants to do, failing to accept great responsibilities, failing to make more money, failing to achieve success. Millions and millions of people suffer from health excusitis, but it is, in most cases, a legitimate excuse. Or is it? Think for a moment of all the highly successful people you know who could, but who don't, use health as an excuse. My physician and surgeon friends tell me the perfect specimen of adult life is non existent. There is something physically wrong with everybody. Many surrender in whole or in part to health excusitis, but success thinking people do not. Two experiences happened to me in one afternoon that illustrates the correct and incorrect attitudes towards health. I had just finished a talk in Cleveland. Afterwards, one fellow, about 30, asked to speak to me privately for a few minutes. He complimented me on the meeting, but then said, "I'm afraid your ideas can't do me much good." You see, he continued, "I've got a bad heart, and I've got to hold myself in check." He went on to explain that he'd seen 4 doctors, but they couldn't find his trouble. He asked me what I would suggest he do. "Well," I said, "I know nothing about the heart, but as one layman to another, here are 3 things I do. First, I'd visit the finest heart specialist I could find and accept his diagnosis as final. You've already checked with 4 doctors, and none of them has found anything peculiar with your heart. Let the 5th doctor be your final check. It may very well be you've got a perfectly sound heart, but if you keep on worrying about it, eventually you may have a very serious heart ailment. Looking and looking and looking for an illness often actually produces illness." The second thing I'd recommend is that you read Dr. Schindler's great book, How to Live 365 Days a Year. Dr. Schindler shows in his book that 3 out of 4 hospital beds are occupied by people who live in EII, emotionally induced illness. Imagine 3 out of 4 people who are sick right now would be well if they had learned how to handle their emotions. Read Dr. Schindler's book and develop your program for emotions management. Third, I'd resolve to live until I die. I went on to explain that this troubled fellow gave him some sound advice I received many years ago from a lawyer friend who had an arrested case of tuberculosis. This friend knew he would have to live a regulated life, but this hasn't stopped him from practicing law, rearing a fine family, and really enjoying life. My friend, who now is 78 years old, expressed his philosophy in these words: I'm going to live until I die, and I'm not going to get life and death confused. While I'm on this earth, I'm going to live. Why be only half alive? Every minute a person spends worrying about dying is just 1 minute that fellow might as well have been dead. I had to leave at that point because I had to be on a certain plane to Detroit. On the plane, the second but much more pleasant experience occurred. After the noise of the takeoff, I heard a ticking sound. Rather startled, I glanced at the fellow sitting beside me. For the sound seemed to be coming from him. He smiled a big smile and said, "Oh, it's not a bomb. It's just my heart." I was obviously surprised, so he proceeded to tell me what had happened. Just 21 days before, he had undergone an operation that involved putting a plastic valve into his heart. The ticking sound, he explained, would continue for several months until new tissue had grown over the artificial valve. I asked him what he was going to do. "Oh," he said, "I've got big plans. I'm going to study law when I get back to Minnesota. Someday I hope to be a government worker. The doctor tells me I must take it easy for a few months, but after that I'll be like new." There you have 2 ways of meeting health problems. The first fellow, not even sure he had anything organic wrong with him. He worried, he was depressed, and on the road to defeat. He wanted somebody to second his motion that he couldn't go forward. The second individual, after undergoing one of the most difficult of operations, was optimistic, eager to do something, and the difference lay in how they thought towards health. I've had some very direct experience with health excuseitis. I'm a diabetic. Right after I discovered I had this ailment about 5,000 hyperdemics ago, I was warned. Diabetes is a physical condition, but the biggest damage results from having a negative attitude towards it. Worry about it, and you may have real trouble. Naturally, since the discovery of my own diabetes, I've gotten to know a great many other diabetics. Let me tell you about 2 extremes. One fellow who has a very mild case belonging to that fraternity of the living dead, obsessed with a fear of the weather. He is usually ridiculously bundled up. He's afraid of infection, so he shuns anybody who has the slightest sniffle. He's afraid of overexertion, so he does almost nothing. He spends most of his energy worrying about what might happen. He bores other people, telling them how awful his problem really is. His real ailment is not diabetes. Rather, he's a victim of health excusitis. He has pitted himself into being an invalid. The other extreme is a division manager for a large publishing company. He has a severe case. He takes about 30 times as much insulin as the fellow mentioned above. But he is not living to be sick. He is living to enjoy his work and have fun. One day he said to me, "Sure, it is an inconvenience, but so is shaving. But I'm not going to think myself to bed. When I take those shots, I just praise the guys who discovered insulin." A good friend of mine, a widely known college educator, came home from Europe in 1945 minus one arm. Despite his handicap, John is always smiling, always helping others. He's about as optimistic as anyone I know. One day, he and I had a long talk about his handicap. "It's just an arm," he said. "Sure, two are better than one, but they just cut off my arm. My spirit is 100% intact." I'm really grateful for that. Another amputee friend is an excellent golfer. One day I asked him how he had been able to develop such a near perfect style with just one arm. I mentioned that most golfers with two arms can't do nearly as well. His reply says a lot. "Well, it's my experience," he said, "that the right attitude and one arm beat the wrong attitude and two arms every time. The right attitude and one arm will beat the wrong attitude and two arms every time." Think about that for a while. It holds true. Not only on the golf course, but in every facet of life. I'm going to read that last part once again. I thought that was pretty powerful. The right attitude and one arm will beat the wrong attitude and two arms every time. So those are examples of health excusitis. And oftentimes people use health as an excuse instead of a reason for moving forward in their lives or moving forward in their business. They'll figure out a way to use it as a stumbling block instead of a stepping stone. And so tomorrow, when we come back for session number 5, I'm going to talk about 4 things you can do to lick or overcome health excusitis. I want to invite you to join me on this journey with the Collaboration Creates Currency movement, which will break the cycle of poverty and build wealth in individuals one connection at a time. You can visit the collaborationcreatescurrencymovement.com to learn more about the movement, the work that I'm doing as a speaker, consultant, author, and coach. And then leverage the Collaboration Creates Currency book, which focuses on building financial literacy, but through relationships. You see, this month of April is Financial Literacy Month, and I was ambitious enough to launch the Empower 5K Financial Literacy Initiative, which will get copies of Collaboration Creates Currency, the blueprint for visibility, credibility, and profitability into the hands of 5,000 people, to consist of college students, young professionals, and adults who have a desire to be entrepreneurs or financially independent. So if you have an interest in joining me on that journey, just type in Empower 5K in the comments, and I'll be happy to get you some more information. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course here on Facebook as I continue the Confidence Builder series. Be encouraged, be blessed, but most of all, be faithful over the gift that you've been given, and remember, your gift will make room for you. We'll see you on the next series. Be encouraged. Peace.